So, welcome back to Tales to Morrow. I am Morrow, your storyteller for today, and today we have some RPG horror stories that are looking pretty spicy. By the way, thank you so much for all the comments and the feedback and the support. Apparently my videos, according to y'all, are getting picked up by the algorithm. I think it's a good thing. Kind of shocking to happen so early on, but hey, anyway, thank you for the feedback. Anyway, let's get to the stories. An animal's weird complex. So with this campaign coming to an end, I guess I wanted to share a story from how it all started. I'm the DM, and this campaign was set in the Zelda universe, which is semi-important to things. This was being ran in a 3.5, with me being pretty lax on rules, and just wanted to make sure the players had fun. The party was Garo Sorcerer, Chica Artificer, Yiga Sword Sage, Twili Cleric, and then the Tiger. I'll use the races or classes to refer to them, and the Tiger will be the Tiger. It is what we refer to the player as to this day when he comes up when recalling the start of the campaign. Now, as it started, he was set on being like Link from Twilight Princess, but wanted to also be Ganondorf. Now, I had worked some ways to work around that. Made him a male Gerudo from Termina who got sent to the main setting. He was dead set on the whole animal thing, so relented and offered him the Lycan racial template. He refused it and showed me the Were-Tiger and stupidly high LA template that just wouldn't work. He'd be too powerful and then fall off mid-game hard, as those things tended to do, since I'd be forcing level buyout. Spent a few days trying to help him make it work, offering other ways, flavoring things, pointing him in every direction I could that wasn't of this. I knew what the other party members were bringing. A single tome of battle class, Sword Sage, would outshine anything he really could bring, since in the end, the only way I allowed the Were-Tiger template was with a class version of it, much to his dismay. I'm assuming the player wanted to play something early game overpowered, late game really lame, so I mean good thing on a DM to try to fix it. I didn't know anything about 3.5 system. Listen, I don't know. I'm a 5e baby, okay? Something the player learned was, I work a lot, sometimes 50 plus hours a week at the time. So I wasn't always around to answer their questions, but my personal friends, the Garo and the Yiga, knew my general rulings and advice on things or could reach out to me. Now, because of me working so often, the Tiger would ask people to hang out on Discord calls with him and just talk, which I thought was great. Means the players might get along since the Twili and Chica were also friends outside of this. Now, he comes to me and lets me know that the Garo player had agreed to join backstory since they were both from Termina, which was fine. He then explained that they had come to an agreement they wanted to be romantic, which was odd, but fine with me. Myself and the Garo had been friends for a few years at this point, had just naturally started to date at one point before I started to run. Even now we don't make it big deal in games, but I didn't mind if players wanted to have romantic plots in the game, both parties were fine with it. Now here comes the first fun part. Sorry it took so long. I wanted his character to be 40-plus-year-old man. The Garo had told me she wanted to play an orphan raised by people from the milk bar, basically a titty bar in this setting, as many old school brothels used to do, which was fine, and wanted to be a young adult at 18. Now, how the Tiger described the moment of love being love at first sight was fine if he wasn't also cursed to be a tiger for the last 10 years of his life or so. This would have meant he had to have seen the Garo when they were a child. I point this out and he then tries to force the Garo to play an older character, but they refused. I later was talking to the Garo about this while we played games, and only to find out they never agreed to this romantic backstory, had no input on the joined backstory. So this weirdo just basically was like, yeah DM, can me and this other player just have a related backstory? Oh, don't worry, I already asked them, they're perfectly okay with it. That's weird. That's really weird. This Tiger character seems very sleazy to say the least. Now, once the Garo ship had set sail without him, the Tiger turned his eye to the Twili with the oh so smooth lines as such. I could be your Link, and you could ride on my back. Though the entire time in character he was a tiger who couldn't talk, as were his own wishes. Wait, if he's a tiger that couldn't talk as part of his own wishes, how is it going to be able to be smooth and flirt up? Like he's going to be like, rawr baby, rawr rawr rawr. Yeah, of course it's gonna be kind of weird. Anyway, so he just did awkward cat things, which made most of the other players not want to interact with him. Now the party goes into a fight that the artificer was given time and money to prep for, just needed time in the fight. The Yiga goes off alone and 1v4 some monsters, while the rest of the party struggles against 3 monsters. The tiger proceeds to freak out, explaining how effed they are, how the Yiga is setting things on fire just to stay alive when he is trying to control the fight by caging in monsters with fire to keep them from retreating to their allies. Playing smart in my opinion. And this is where it begins. His weird one-sided rivalry with the Sword Sage, which he had never managed to keep up with by nature of their 2 different builds. He begins to mention how his Cavalier in some other game could one-shot everyone in the party and his party. No one really cares. But then during one loot roll moment, the party gets a scroll of remove curse and use it. Tiger is a man, no one really cares. Tiger has a mental breakdown about losing his character, but now that he can talk, the party interacts with him a bit more, and he then drops the never forgettable line of, "Hey Tweely, do you lay eggs?" And everyone loses it. Now at one point, the party, for one reason or another, talks about the character's sexuality. Tweely was Arrow Ace, and the party for the most part think about agreeing most of the characters were to some extent Ace. Except the Garo, she was full on pansexual. The tiger now jumps on the boat after trying to get his character into both female party members' pants. "Yeah, I'm totally Ace too, just like you, Tweely." Which I just had to mute myself and die of laughter for. Now the note so far, no player had complained to me, so I thought they were all fine with this. Oh wow, creepy tiger man does weird creepy tiger man things trying to get in every female PC's pants. I mean, listen, if, let's say for example, you and this other player are cool with this sort of like bantering, flirting and stuff, that's fine, go for it. But if the other players aren't cool with it, you probably shouldn't do it. Sooner or later, the tiger begins to argue with me over something. At this point, due to backstory reasons, the Garo had to give up their character and came in with a Kokiri. But as the tiger continued to argue over and over, even out of the game, while I was either at work or at home relaxing, I also had personal stuff I was going through that probably impacted my short temper here. I kicked the tiger, and then suddenly every player came out with horror stories of him and what he said during the calls he'd be in with them while I was away. Now, most of that is personal stuff with them, so I won't be sharing it, but I told them all I wish that they told me earlier, and I would have dealt with them all then. TLDR, Maya wants to be different, plays as an animal, gets some weird rival complex with another player, and wants to sleep and be romantic with every female character. No one complains about it till after he is kicked because his ego goes unchecked too long. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is a great lesson to why you should talk to your DM. If some players being really weird and you're talking to the player and saying please stop, it doesn't work, tell your DM. At the end of the day, your DM typically is the person that is putting together the session and has the full say of whether somebody stays or leaves or what happens. And if you talk to the player and nothing happened, and if you DM talk to the player and still nothing happened, the DM can always kick the player. But you know, a Legend of Zelda game does sound really fun. I heard the new game came out and not gonna lie, I've been kind of wanting to play it and wanted to try it. I hear it's super fun and you can do all kinds of wacky things in it. Overall, I think this was handled pretty well. Well done, DM. Another player rolls to determine my alignment / backstory and begs DM for a magic item to kill me with. Hey everyone! This happened somewhat recently, but was difficult for me to deal with, so I wanted to sit with it before posting about it, even if some of the details are now fuzzy. This is also an inactive campaign, and while the problem player infuriated me to no end, I think they had a lot of issues they needed to work through, and I bear them no ill will. So please don't call them out or harass them or anything if you know them. Just needed to get this off my chest. This campaign had a large number of players to start. The most noteworthy ones in the story are myself, Dave, and the DM. I've DM'd more games than I've played, so when an interesting looking 5e campaign in a homebrew world came up with a newer DM on Discord, I hopped to the start to join. We had a good amount of time to socialize and work on our characters before our first game. I really wanted to do something unique and interesting, so I played a delusional kobold that thought they were a dragon. We did some reflavoring, but keep things mechanically the same. So for instance, burning hands came from my mouth. Everyone seemed pretty chill, but there was one person that was far more active on the server than anyone else, Dave. Dave had some kind of a job, we never figured out what it was, where they weren't allowed to be on a computer, but could talk and speak out loud, so I would frequently ask people to go on a voice chat or do calls with them. I knew we were going to be speaking to everyone once the game started, but as of my prior experience was in person, it still made me a bit uncomfortable to do a voice call with someone one-on-one. So while I didn't mind chatting with them solo, I kept making excuses for doing a call. Session 1 seemed fine. They did things that kept drawing attention to the character and would push the DM to allow them to do certain things in a background/backstory that didn't make sense in a DM's homebrewing setting. Nothing too major, but stuff like, it says I can sleep at the guard post in the city as part of my background. I'm a guard in the city and I can sleep there and bring some other people, right? There's not really any organized military/martial presence in this town, but it says right there in my background that I can do it, and that's sort of repeated until the DM relented. This was the start of a pattern. So after the first session, they messaged me saying, hey, I have this great magic item that I'll be giving myself before the next session. I was a little confused that they were messaging me instead of the DM, but I figured they were just trying to brainstorm before approaching them. Holy cow, Batman, the description of that magic item could do was 2 whole pages. I crunched some numbers and quickly realized that this magic item was not only capable of keeping the whole party consistently healed, it could one-shot a Tarrasque. I'm pulling up the master sheet right now, and according to D&D Beyond, 676 health? One-shot a Tarrasque? Bruh, what kind of a magical item is that? What kind of broken homebrew shit is this? I was a bit flabbergasted and pointed out that this was capable of killing, as a bonus action, the highest published CR monster in the game, and they responded with, yeah, I know, that was one of the things I wanted to do when I built it. So not only can you heal up the entire party, you can also kill a Tarrasque with, what's the health again? 676 as a bonus action. If this DM allows this item, I'm gonna get mad at the DM really quickly. Some brief background on the DM's world and the campaign. This was a very low magic setting, and we all started at level 3. In terms of magic items, we've so far come across cantrip spell scrolls, a coin of delving, and a cloak of billowing. Still, I figured maybe they were just unfamiliar or awkward, and they were so eager, so I tried to help them. Thought about what they wanted to do conceptually with their item and created something that had some level-based scaling. It was fairly effective, but far more balanced and in line with what someone might have at level 3 in a campaign. I figured with DM approval, maybe some sort of quest, it could be acquirable. I told them their idea was pretty overpowered, especially for level 3, and suggested the more balanced item to them. The description only took 1 paragraph. They responded that the item was totally useless, and didn't hear about them until the next session. This is where things were totally off the hook. Okay, listen, overpowered items ruin games, and they can especially ruin games like TTRPGs like D&D. If you have something overpowered that has no balance, then there's no more stakes. There's no more life-threatening situations. If you have a god item that lets you do whatever, then it just ruins the whole experience for you and the other players. And I'm really hoping the DM says no. At the end of the day, the DM is the only one that is able to decide which item gets added or not, and I'm hoping the DM says no. Please, DM, say no. Please, I'm begging you, please. Since the DM allowed him to be a guard and bunk with a couple of other player members there, he used this as a quest hook. The head of the guard gave him a quest, and he went to wake up the other party members who stayed with him. Half of us stayed behind at the inn. The group wanted to do some downtime shopping socializing this session, so they were off to the market. DM asked them, are you going straight there or are you going to the inn first to get the rest of your party? No, we're just going straight there. Are you sure? The rest of the party is still there. Yes, we're going to the market. They bought a gust spell scroll, but didn't realize that as a fighter, they weren't able to use it. He went to blacksmith and asked them to make a set of tonfa. Didn't really make sense in the setting of the blacksmith to have any idea what they were referring to, but Dave kept pushing, and eventually the DM decided that if he can draw up the specifications really well, maybe the smith or another party member proficient in smithing could make it. That would be a difficult role, and would have to succeed on multiple checks. He eventually got back to the tavern, draws up multiple specs with a string of 17 plus rolls. He then engages in persuasion rolls, another string of 17 plus rolls, to convince other party members to buy those specs and his cantrip scroll, and changes the prices each time. But nobody wants to metagame, so he just scams the party. That's not persuasion, that's deception. You're trying to scam somebody and let them buy a thing for a higher price. Shouldn't that be deception? Also, why are you trying to scam your party? They're people that you should rely on, so why would you want to try to screw them over? If there's a story reason or a specific player and you have a feud for RP reasons and it's mutually, allowed and agreed to, then sure, I could see where a little bit of deception could work, but not if you're trying to screw them over out of coin. This takes hours. Some people got chances to interact and play D&D, but the camera was always following them, so to speak. After a skill challenge and an immense amount of 17+ rolls on Dave's end, they get the tonfa. They proceed to tell everyone all about the qualities and stats of it. It winds up being this wish list of weapon traits, bonus damage dice, and bonus AC. The DM tries to stop him and tells him that he needs to figure out what the stats and properties are, but Dave insists that he already had this conversation with the DM and that told him this weapon could have all these properties, and that he should stand by his previous conversation. If the DM and you clearly didn't agree on this, then no, I really hope the DM doesn't allow this. I really hope the DM doesn't allow Dave to have this. Dave seems like a very, very, very dislikable character. Seriously, I made up some reason to head directly to the market. Something I forgot to mention, another player complained that I was talking over them in a previous session. I felt bad about this, and this isn't something I want to do to another player. We figured that it was half that I spoke strongly and confidently, conditioned to as part of my job, and then having a quiet microphone. So I try to be more careful about using my meeting voice and turn everyone's voice volume down and turn theirs to the max, and it seemed reasonable. The reason I mention this is because I felt so bad, so I wanted to give gifts to all the other party members. I'd spent most of the week planning this out, so I needed to get to the market before the end of the session. We essentially just had starting gold and equipment, so I had to get creative to make meaningful gifts for the rest of the party, and it took up most of my starting equipment and all of my starting gold. As Dave heard me doing this, Dave decided to say, "Hey everyone, let's plan out how the party will handle finances. Let's leave out OP because they're selfish and greedy." They proceeded to plan and vote on how to handle finances. Then proceeded with, "Also, I have this quest. Let's discuss it and plan out how to proceed with it now before OP gets back." I was pretty livid at that point. I had essentially sat out all the session due to his decisions and deliberately excluded from roleplay moments, campaign decisions, etc. I realized that my character also had every reason to be pissed with the information they had available. So as I returned and Dave announced the decision the party had already made, I challenged them on their behavior over the day. They responded with, "Well, you're a greedy dragon, so I know you're bad with money. I don't even need to guess, I just know that you spent all of your money at the market. That proves I'm right. In fact, in our next quest, I could just tell the quest giver that you didn't participate and just keep your reward." Things got weird. Yeah, no, things got dickish. Dave is becoming the most insufferable character I've ever heard about, and we have heard of some of the most insufferable people out there, right? First, spending hours trying to come up with a way to make this broken-ass tonfa, whatever the hell tonfa is, and then convincing other players to buy out the stuff at a loss so he has more money, and then as soon as the player decides to actually do anything at all, they're like, "Oh, let's include the player." Why? Is it because of the magic item? Dave, are you upset that the OP told you that your magic item was OP and gave you an alternate thing? Dave is becoming quite a character and not a good character. Moving on. I tried to ignore him and went around to the rest of my party bestowing my gifts to them. Though mostly silly things. A kobold's best attempt to make a scented candle. Some tinkerer's tools for the warforge. A chess set for the scholar, etc. Dave interrupted pretty frequently for rolls to determine if I was good or evil. It didn't make much sense to me at the time, but now I'm fairly certain they're just trying to justify attacking me or proving in the opposite alignment or whatever they were. They kept persuading the DM until they finally let them do a series of rolls for it, and lo and behold, more 17+ rolls accumulating in the 19. How is Dave able to do 17+ rolls for literally everything? At level 3, mind you, right? They mentioned level 3, right? Yeah, they're level 3. How is he able to do plus 17s every single time at level 3 so consistently? I mean, I'm not saying it's not a possibility, but I mean, every time? Without having low, 10s and under? This doesn't make sense. The DM decided he succeeded and asked me to tell him about my backstory and alignment. No! DM, what are you doing? No. If a player wants to talk about the backstory, let him do it in character. Or the alignment, let them reveal it through the action. Why are you just letting Dave get away with this? Only because he's annoying? No, you tell Dave, shut up, sit down, let the OP do whatever they're doing. And that's it. You gotta go really hard. Some people are just gonna be absolutely insufferable. So you gotta be really heavy-handed with them and tell them no. But this DM is just allowing Dave more and more things because Dave is whining and complaining and moaning about stuff. I dislike Dave, but also dislike that DM is becoming an enabler for Dave's actions. Here's the thing. I really didn't flesh out my whole backstory yet. I figured I could develop it as the characters develops through play. Try to share what I had come up with so far, but kept being pressed for more before I put my foot down and said, look, I don't care how well you rolled. You can't read my backstory and my character's inner thoughts with a skill check. DM finally agreed with me, and we ended the session. They took off, but some of us stayed on the call to chat. Then Dave says, you should never have tried to stand up to my character. Kobolds are cowardly. You're not playing your character correctly. I glanced at my character sheet and pointed out that I had the Kobold legacy trait Defiance, which gave me an advantage against being frightened, so I don't think I need to play with them cowardly. Then they dropped the next line. You know, I could kill your character anytime I wanted. You won't be able to do anything to stop me. This wasn't one-on-one or anything either. This was in front of other party members. I laugh it off, but I'm a little uncomfortable. He wasn't very knowledgeable about the game, and I was pretty confident in my tactics/character build, so I wasn't too worried if they just attacked me out of the blue, but they always rolled exceptionally high and could go for my character in no sleep. I was getting worked up, so made an excuse and logged off. Yeah, surprisingly awfully high. How the heck is Dave rolling this high? What modifiers do they have? And what other magical nonsense, which I'm pretty sure they have equipped, gives them the extra rolls? There's probably like 1600 magical items that were just added without DM's approval. I guarantee you there's some sort of nonsense that Dave is doing. And yeah, what's wrong with kobolds just want to act brave? Just because let's say for example, drow are naturally considered evil, right? Or kobolds are considered more cowardly, it doesn't mean that outliers can't happen. Can you have a drow that just wants to mind their business and maybe help out a few folks? Yes, you can. Regardless of the alignment, regardless of the background. Can you have a kobold that is not going to be a frightful coward? Yes, you can. Because guess what? It's your character and not Dave's, and you decide how you want the character to be. Screw what Dave thinks. Literally, yeah, screw what Dave thinks. After the week progressed, it looked more and more likely that we're going to get an OP magic item, and I kind of lost it. I went on a bit of a rant and told him in the DM I really think it's bad to give him the item, because it's so very powerful, and he had already threatened to kill my character. I realized something at the same time that I suspect is zero surprise to you out there. He rolled physical dice. It's not something I have even considered, but suddenly I was incredibly suspicious of him not rolling below a 17 that session. Started mentally planning contingencies of what preparations I'll be making to protect myself, and messaging the DM in order for Dave not to metagame around them. If you roll physical dice, of course nobody's gonna know what you get unless you have a webcam pointed directly at your dice, and at that point you can just be like, oh, I rolled verbal 20s, I got 2 20s, DM I got 2 20s, and then rolled again, oh, more 2 20s, DM. Of course they would be the kind of guy that would be cheating by rolling physical dice. Listen, virtual dice exist that everybody can see, where you can see out in the open what everybody gets. Use that. And the DM should probably have thought about it, be like, no, you're not allowed to do that, use physical dice. How's the DM not caught on to this whole thing going on? I mean, I get, yeah, DMing can be a little difficult, and, you know, you gotta think about every single factor and every single thing about the campaign and everything, but you probably will know it's like, hey, a lot of 17 pluses on whichever class, any class that Dave is playing would be a little bit too much, right? It'd be a little too much, I think. At this point, I had a reality check. What was I even doing? This wasn't fun anymore. I had decided I'll probably quit, but also went back and just wrote a heartfelt message about what I felt was an antagonistic from him, how it made me feel as a player, and potential steps that we could take towards a resolution. Then I muted the server for 24 hours, and I tried to mentally prepare myself, but telling them that I was no longer interested in continuing. I returned, and I'm shocked and surprised. A lot had transpired in those 24 hours. I'd gotten a couple of messages of support from the DM and some of the player members. Other party members had started sharing their own grievances regarding Dave and how uncomfortable they were feeling. Dave did not respond at all well to any of this and blamed everyone except for himself. My favorite justification he made that nobody else seemed to buy is that he already messaged me and that I was alright with everything. Lol, no. Things were getting heated and several people were really upset, and the DM decided to just pull the trigger and kick him. His character became an NPC and was later discovered dead in a ditch in the following session. So that's my story. Thanks for reading it through at the end. Some of the problems and issues other party members had with Dave were pretty shocking to warrant a separate story all on their own, but this has gone on long enough, and I'll leave it to them to tell their own stories if they choose to. It took DM quite a bit to get over through that, but I'm glad you spoke up, and I'm glad the other players spoke up as well. Should have happened a lot sooner, but if the DM were to actually step in and do what DM's job is supposed to do. Listen, I get the DM has a lot going on their plate. They have to think about the world, the storyline, the NPCs, the combat, everything. But also, DM, if you're putting this group together, you're responsible for making sure that everybody is playing by the rules and not being dickheads to each other. And Dave clearly was a dickhead. Clearly. It's upsetting it happened for so long, but at least there's a positive to it. So, OP, I'm pretty happy that worked out for you. And that'll be our last story for today. I hope you enjoyed yourselves, and thanks so much for watching. If you like what I do here, consider subscribing, liking, whatever it is, and leave me feedback in the comments, whether for the story or for myself. Anyway, I'll see you next time in more Tales tomorrow. See ya.